Matt Witte. I'm with Debbie Lucci, fellow Ravis agent out of Andover, Massachusetts, and we're running our second podcast today, and pretty excited to talk about. Well, Debbie, why don't you tell us what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about the juicy stuff today. We're going to talk about scams today. So, I have a couple that I've seen in 25 years. So I'm going to protect, I don't know, the guilty, innocent, whoever they are. Okay. So we're not going to mention names, towns, addresses, or anything like that. So I'm going to tell you a little story. So I had this woman call me and she was all excited. She goes, "Oh, I've been receiving your postcards for years, blah, blah, blah." And we were chatting and, she wanted to sell her house and I was all excited about it. And, went down there, took a look at the house. The house was vacant. And, it hadn't been lived in a while. It had that real kind of cold feeling to it. So what happened is, sometimes you just get this sixth sense that you should do a little digging. Okay. So did a little digging on this person. We get Rosie Matola in our office who can check a deed and any information any background you want to know on anybody. So she's great. So she pulled the deed for me and I find out that this woman is not on the deed. The
Oh, wow.
ex-husband is on the deed. Now, not only that, but we looked up her information as his information, and they both had to go to jail for tax evasion.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So now I'm sort of like, okay, how do I deal with this and, what's going on? So, I talked to her. I put a market analysis together. Never met her, just talked to her on the phone. And I said to her, geez, I don't see a name on the deed here. I just want to make sure, do you have the correct paperwork? So so it's legal so I can sell the house. And the ex-husband, I think he ended up in another country. Let's just put it that way. Okay. He was not in the United States anymore. Okay. So she was very upset at me for asking that. I mean, appalled that I would ask such a question. I'm like, well, geez, legally, you're not on the deed. I just can't sell this house without, and I said, I'm sure you have some paperwork stating that it's okay.
Exactly.
I do have some paperwork stating it's okay. And she was very upset and she wouldn't give it to me. So I really couldn't list the house. Right. So I didn't list the house. So I thought I was doing the right thing. And then the next thing I know, the house is coming on with another agent.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
the house sold.
Really?
Now, and still to this day, I have no idea how. I mean, maybe the woman had paperwork and maybe she figured out that, geez, I better fork over this paperwork. This is a second or third agent asking for this. And she did. But when I asked her, she was so upset that I would ask such a thing. So that's what happened. I mean,
So is the idea, you think, like that she's trying to list and sell this house, she doesn't own it, and somehow the proceeds will get wired to some account that she has because she doesn't really need to attend the closing like the buyer does, right? I mean, is that what you're thinking?
when it came to find out, I mean, it had to be to collect the proceeds. I mean, I don't even know, like, where was the ex-husband?
Right.
I don't know where he is. She said to me he was in another country, and that's all I can kind of go by. But, it was. I think that had to be the reason. She
Yeah.
had to collect those proceeds. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah, that's frightening when you think about it. Imagine being, out of the country or something. Someone lists your house, sells your house, collects proceeds, and you have no right to that. I mean, that's amazing what they come up with now.
It's kind of it's this fine line because I have had sellers say to me, because I'll say, look, if they're paying cash, we want to get proof of funds.
Mhm.
And one of my sellers said to me a long time ago, that's kind of insulting to that seller, Debbie, that you're asking for that. We had somebody ask us for proof of funds and we get really upset. So, you think you're trying to do the right thing.
Mhm.
And some people get turned off when you ask them for proof of funds. Well, needless to say, I asked for proof of funds all the time anyway. If they say they're going to pay cash, I ask them, where is it coming from? I don't need account numbers.
Hmm.
I just need to see it. So, so that was kind of shocking. They had spent like 5 years in jail for tax evasion. And I mean, there was a few red flags there.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and we want to help as many people as we can, and try to be open minded as much as possible. But you take you take a situation like the one you dealt with, and then we do question things, and
Right.
we do have to be mindful of our clients and trying to protect them, and not getting ourselves in lawsuits as well.
Well, can you imagine? Let's say, for example, if I was going on the judgment that I had that she wasn't on the deed, she couldn't produce anything. Let's say I put that house on the market. Okay. Just what the heck? Just let her sign the contract and put it on the market. You've got a person that buys this. Let's just take it. It's a family with, the kids, the dogs, the goldfish, everything else. They pull up with the moving truck and they can't close.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's what I'm envisioning, that these poor people that buy this house, and I'm sure they would have found out before that, that they couldn't have cleared the title, but who knows in this day and age, what's going on. So, yeah, it closed with another agent. I was shocked. I still don't really know to this day how that they got around that. It must have
Yeah,
been something. Maybe she produced paperwork, but when I asked her, she was extremely insulted that I asked her that, and she wasn't on the deed. So,
no kidding.
right.
Well, I always find when people get insulted, they potentially have something to hide. That's the only way
Yeah.
I would see it. I would take a proof of funds, or paperwork as a compliment that you're doing your job and you want to make sure that we're moving forward in a positive, positive light. Nothing shady.
Right. Right. So then the other scam I hit recently was this gentleman calls me and he wants to sell this piece of land in our area, and it's zoned industrial, and wants me to price it. So I was collaborating with a team member on this, and we were trying to get comps, and we were working on it. And the gentleman was very kind of more impatient than most sellers. Okay, he was sort of like, did you get the comps? I mean, he was really kind of even almost haunting me within a few hours. Did you
Okay.
get the comps? I want to get this on the market. So I said to him, all right, we're looking at comps. I mean, where do you feel the value might be of this property? And he said between probably 350 and 450. And I said, all right, fine. So made a few phone calls, um, it, land that we thought was in the area that we could really, it took a little bit of digging. Okay. So, we ready to list the property for about 400,000, send this gentleman paperwork. And the gentleman that I have over the phone, I've never met him, has an accent. Okay. Um, and the team member that I'm working with has a relative that has land right next to the land that we're listing. Okay. So there was a little dispute between the relative and the gentleman that was listing the land.
Okay.
So when I heard there was a little dispute, I'm like, oh boy, I better disclose that the team member I'm working with is this person so they're comfortable.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I didn't want any problems. So what happens is I mentioned to this gentleman who listed the land with us over the phone, so and so on my team is going to be collaborating with me to list this land. And he doesn't flinch. And it's the same name.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm like, geez, this is not bothering him at all. Okay, maybe it was more one-sided. The relative was more one-sided.
Hmm.
So we got a family friend of the agent on the phone, and they know this seller well. And this family friend is describing the seller, and he's saying, that gentleman is old. He's really quite old. And I'm like, geez, he doesn't sound old on the phone. He doesn't sound old.
Yeah.
So the next thing I know, the team member looks up the seller and he's passed supposedly that seller has no children as heirs.
Okay.
So this gentleman that we were listing the land for, and it was ready to go live, he signed all, and because I'm sitting there, I'm like, if this gentleman is that old, he's probably not going to sign electronic signatures like this,
Not typical. Yeah.
right? So I'm like, wow, this. I said to my team member, I said, something's hair stood up. There's too many things that aren't lining up here. I said, this is off. So she sends me the obit. I'm like, whoa, that's it. This man's passed. Okay, something's wrong. Okay, so what happens is I call Dot Loop, and I said to them, is there a way this gentleman's looking for information through Dot Loop? Is there something that he can obtain by signing? They go, no, all he can see is the contracts. Okay, fine. I called the multiple listing service, and I said to them, geez, I think I get this land scan going on, and I noticed that you mentioned this on the front of the multiple listing page when the page comes up that there's people doing land scams. And I said, tell me, like, what are they looking for? I mean, obviously this can't close. How's he going to pretend how is this going to happen? So what are they looking? What is he looking for? What is he going to get? So they said to me, we can't discuss it. And I'm like, okay, so let's do this. You can't discuss this particular case because there's no there's no crime that's been committed yet. Okay.
Yeah,
so
as of yet, right.
Well, all right. So, but you've posted this thing on your front page that this land scams. These other people, I don't need to know names. What are they looking for? She wouldn't answer. They wouldn't answer me. So then the next thing we do is we call the Andover police. Okay. And, I'm all ready to, like, let's put the land on the market, and we can write up a false offer and see what this guy wants. I mean, what is he doing? Because I want to know what is, okay, all this. So they're like, he hasn't committed a crime yet. There's nothing we can do. And I'm like, geez, he's forging this guy's name. I mean, so to me, I'm like, and this is all like 7:00 in the morning. I'm coming back from the gym and I'm calling all these people. Get the police involved, and they're down the office, and my team is sitting there, and I'm there, and so what we decided to do was the land was ready. It was ready to go live in the multiple listing service the next day, and I felt bad. I didn't want this person haunting my team member because I kind of was collaborating with her,
right?
So I said to this gentleman, I said, we're ready to go live. I said, I just need a copy of your Massachusetts Massachusetts driver's license, and we'll be all set to go.
Perfect.
That was it. So, of course, I'm like, I got to find out why he's doing all this. Okay, so call Jack O'Donohue. Okay, because Jack O'Donohue, the attorney that we do a lot of business with, knows all this stuff that's going on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, Debbie, really think about how many sellers in your career have you never met? I'm like, geez, not that many, but I mean, land, right? It's not you're going to walk through the house. Right?
True. Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, geez, I said, Jack, really? How is it going to get to the closing? I said, you need all these IDs and it's all false IDs, Debbie. They get all false IDs. They get they close in the property, get it wired to a bank account, and then it goes out. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, $400,000.
Yeah, that is insane.
So that consumed probably 5 or 6 hours of drama, and I don't know. It's almost like when we list a property that you need an ID or something.
Yeah.
How many times have you ever said to a seller, I need to see a Massachusetts license, passport, or something if you're going to sign this listing agreement?
You would think that would make sense. The crazy thing is we do work with people that are relocating, and we don't necessarily meet them face to face. So it's not.
Yeah. How many people do you know that, I've had team members FaceTime, and the buyer buys a house.
Yep. Absolutely. But on the sell side, I guess it's so different, right? Because you're wiring the funds to them, when the buyer is purchasing. Yeah.
Right. So you'd say to yourself, geez, well, they'll never make it past the closing table and the attorneys. Like, how could they ever do that? And Jack O'Donoghue, read some articles on it, knew all about it, and sent us some stuff, and I shot it out to the team to beware of that. So yeah, I
This is
actually,
great information because this could be potentially, well, it could obviously ruin a seller. It
oh,
could ruin a real estate agent's career.
oh,
The person buying it, like you said, is trying to move in. They can't close. It's catastrophic.
it's funny because there was a local agent that called me the other day, and he goes, "I'm listing a piece of land. What did you?" Because he wanted, "What did you do that you found out it was the right?" Because you think about it,
Yeah,
other than meeting that person in person, and even still, you don't know.
right. And who wouldn't be excited? You get a listing, and they want to put it on tomorrow, and it's pictures of land, and that's pretty quick, and you
Right.
know, and there's not much land for sale, so it could be a really fast sale. There's no open houses. You know, it's
I mean,
it's an
you know,
enticing thing for an agent.
yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that even when you go to somebody's house, it's almost like you should get a copy. Like, how do you know that,
I
I'm going to
Yeah,
be,
yeah. There's some like you said. I want to make sure it stays anonymous, but I know that I didn't Google. Well, a seller had called me and said they wanted to list their house, and again, unnamed town, and same thing. I got that sixth sense when I pulled up to the house, and I knocked on the door, and I was thinking, please don't answer the door. And I never say that, and they didn't, and I left, and I had Googled them, and it was some pretty horrible felony offenses with some serious federal prison time. And I never made it into that house again, and we lost contact, which was a good thing. But it's one of those things you do it once, and then you learn, like, I have to Google these people. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they're Googling us, you
yeah.
know?
Well, there's a couple of top agents in town that went through a scam, and I don't know all the details of it, but it was a high-end property several years ago, and they were very experienced agents, and this guy was a scam artist and trying to buy this high-end property, and I don't know what ended up happening, but it just, you
Yeah,
think
it's
about
good.
it, you get
Yeah. And
funds.
you hear the wiring scams a lot, the fake wiring, phishing scams where it looks like it's from the attorney's office, but the website is one letter off. So it
Right.
might say attorney, Johnny Walker, and then the Walker has two R's on it. And you think that's my attorney, and all of a sudden you wire, $200,000 and it's gone and you can't get it back. So I always tell clients, if you're wiring money and you get instructions, you pick up the phone, you call the attorney and verify the wiring instructions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, you think about it now between electronic signatures and deposit link and all this so fast. I mean, it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it's good and it's bad.
It is. It is. I had one potential scam when I was a brand new agent. This woman wanted to see this property, and I took her to the property, and it was an internet lead that we get sometimes, so we don't know the client that well, so we meet them in person. And she had a couple of young kiddos, and we look at one house, and she says, "I want to pay for it. I'm ready." And I'm like, "Oh, this is fantastic. She loves the house. She knows what she wants," and it was a great house. And I said, "Well, you're financing it?" She goes, "No, I'm going to pay cash for it." And I said, "That's great." And she says, my fiance is gonna send me the money, with a check. And I said, that's great. Where is he? And she said, he's overseas. And so we write up the offer, and I get the check, and I get the proof of funds. The proof of funds looks strange to me. I've never seen anything like it. And I sent it to an attorney, and he says, I think this is fake. It doesn't look real to me. So on and so forth. So I called, and again, we talk about offending people, right? So I call, and I said, when's the last time you've seen your fiance? And she says, well, I've never met him in person. So it ended up, I had to talk to her and say, I'm not certain, that this could be a scam. It might be a scam. I just don't know. And she did a little bit of digging, and she kind of came up with on her own that it was a scam, and that he was not a real person. I felt like I was on Dateline. Have you ever seen Dateline with Chris Hansen and he goes undercover? It was like, I've seen enough Dateline episodes that I should have known. But again, it's that fine line. Do you want to say, do you really have a fiance? You don't want to aggravate anybody and get really personal with them. but the attorney said this just isn't real, so we were dead in the water at that point.
So, one thing that is, this was many, many years ago. So that somebody gave me a credit, they wanted a rental, and somebody gave me a credit report that they pulled because they didn't want
Mhm.
me to, do anything with their identity or anything. They didn't want to give me any information. So they handed me like an Experian credit report, and it said they had excellent credit. Okay. It wasn't his report. He
Mhm.
wanted to rent the house. And um, this guy went through many agents and pulled this many times. And so it wasn't him. He wanted to rent the house, and he ended up renting the house, and it wasn't his credit report. So
Goodness.
that's one of the policies, William Ravis, why they have it now, that when we do a rental, we have to pull the report. Doesn't matter if it's an agent outside bringing the tenant in, or what it is. We pull the credit report within Ravis because they want to make sure. Because I think that gentleman and his wife scammed like about 11 different people. And
Is that,
when you get a tenant in a property in Massachusetts, it's hard getting them out.
I was thinking the same thing. You'll never get them out.
Right.
If
So
they dig their heels in, and
luckily, I haven't had too many scams. But I don't know about you, but are you getting a lot of texts that says, "Peep, that I want to buy a property in Boston. Can you contact me through WhatsApp?"
yes, I've gotten those, and my favorite one that we've all gotten at the office is, and I shouldn't do this, but I have to have a little bit of fun. I'll get a text, and it'll be from Debbie Lucci with Debbie's new phone number, and it will say, Matt, can you go buy 6 electronic gift cards and send them to me? I have to give them to clients. And I always respond, Debbie, we're at the office meeting. You're right across from me. Why don't you just come over and tell me? And then they go away. They never respond, but have you gotten that one before?
No,
The
I
gift
haven't
card
gotten
one?
that. No, I haven't
Yeah.
gotten that one. But I've gotten probably about 3 or 4 lately with this. I want to buy a villa in Boston. And can you contact me through WhatsApp? I'm like, good luck.
If you can find the villa, I'll buy it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I did hear a lot about the what if they're trying to get you onto WhatsApp. It seems like it's an international scam. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the land scam happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's it. So
Yeah.
that you got to really be careful. I mean, I just think that it would be in our best interest, everybody's best interest, if we ask for IDs when they're listing property.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's great to hear these little stories and that extra digging because I am going to give a shout out to all the great agents out there because everyone says all agents are exactly the same. Well, I don't know if that's true because somebody might not have pulled the deed, might have listed it, might have sold it, and might have gotten scammed.
yeah,
So it is that extra legwork and that gut feeling that something is off.
right. You think about it. You get a new girlfriend, right? What's stopping the new girlfriend for showing up and signing listing paperwork in the place of the ex-wife, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And they get smart too. I mean, they get into your emails and they see like things are closing and they
Yeah.
can do some digging, like we talked about the phishing scams and stuff. They get very clever in the as Chris Hansen did his research in the what they call internet cafes, in other places. So
hmm
so all really good. So Debbie, this was fun. Again, a lot of fun. Podcast number 2. Hopefully people got something out of it here. And do you want to tell them how they can contact us or what they should do or they have questions?
Yeah. So the best place, if you get any questions from me, is Deborah.Lucci@Ravis.com.
Okay, awesome. Mine's basically the same thing. It's matt.whitty@ravis.com. And you can DM us as well if that's easy enough. And we'll see you on the next one.